welcome to the Mundane to Magical free online summit. My name is Louise Matson and I have been truly blessed to be your host for this summit. For this video, it's a closing video really to tie up the whole summit, and I really hope that you have all enjoyed it as much as I have. But I also wanted to give my personal take on what the summit is all about and how to reclaim our truth, how to reconnect with the magic all around us, and how to really manifest our soul-fueled magical lives. A lot of what the speakers have said really resonates with me, as you can probably tell during the interviews. And this is because they've either been directly part of my spiritual reawakening over the last 3 years, or their message, what they have shared, has really resonated, or the energies behind what they share, like the dragons and things, have been a big part of my own personal journey. And it was absolutely wonderful and a true blessing to be able to introduce so many new people to certain energies like the dragons. And from the feedback that I've received already, so many people have had such wonderful and profound experiences. It has been truly beautiful to hear and read all of your feedback. So I thank you so much for that. So my take on mundane to magical and what it is. And really, for me, it comes down to perception. It's really all about how we perceive the world that we live in, because the world that we live in is truly magical. It is truly wonderful. And it's really understanding that we are the creators of our own reality. And so we're the ones that are in charge of, if you like, we're the ones that control how we perceive the world around us, how we perceive our lives and our realities. So for me, reclaiming our truth is really one of the messages that really came through to me from my guides at the beginning of my reawakening journey, when I was ready to fully reconnect with my truth, was the importance of getting back to basics. You know, really getting back to the basics of who we are in our reality, in our truth, as energetic beings, as these powerful creator beings, spiritual beings, multidimensional beings that are currently residing within this physical form, incarnated in this physical form, and to really have a true understanding that feels like that deep sense of knowing of who we are. That is one of the key elements to really making the most out of this experience in this incarnated form, and actually being able to fulfill our soul purpose, our soul mission, and live that soul-fueled magical life. So what does that mean, getting back to basics? What does that mean about understanding who we are as multidimensional beings? The message that came through for me was very much about grounding, protection, in other words, setting clear and healthy boundaries, and cleansing. And those are really the basis of the work. We feel that pull. There is something that is happening within us, around us, that we feel that call, that pull, that we're more than this physical form, that we're more than the roles that we play or the lives that we're currently leading, and that we're here to do more or be more. And that's really the key thing. And people say to me, well, I don't know how to listen to my intuition. I don't hear the voice. But if you've been drawn to anything to do with multidimensional living, energy healing, you know, yourself as more than, you know, the roles that you play in life, or this physical form that you are, or, you know, you just feel that there's more to life, then you have heard and connected with your intuition. It's just that it feels so alien that you're not used to. You know, so many of us are tuned in to our radio dial, to the loud and glaring ego FM, that we find it difficult to recognize the divine FN when it's actually coming through, because there's so much white noise and chatter going on that's really disrupting the messages from being clear or coming through, or for us to trust them enough to actually take action and acknowledge the messages that we're receiving all the time. So one of the basic things is really cleansing our field, creating healthy boundaries, understanding, yes, we are limitless. Well, we're pure energy. So we are part of the all that is. We are a divine individuated spark of source energy, God, the universe, doesn't matter what you want to call it, they're only words. And really connecting with that through seeing ourselves as more than merely this physical form, seeing everything as more than merely its physical form, and understanding that, our auric field, our energetic field radiates out beyond our physicality. And therefore, if we haven't got clear boundaries around our energetic field, we are literally absorbing, we're open to absorbing everything. Now, we as energy beings, we're very empathic. We feel energy. We are very open to the energies around us. And quite often the people who are starting to wake up at this moment in time feel very challenged, very triggered by other people, by situations that happen, because their fields are so open. They're just acting like a sponge and just absorbing everything that's around them. And realizing that, the world that we live in at the minute isn't in any way, shape, or form perfect in terms of its energetic frequency, its resonance. There is so much pollution in terms of, the environmental pollution, or just the thoughts and emotions of the people around us, that we are, when we're open, when we have no clear boundaries, just absorbing directly into our field. So one of the key things is really to set those boundaries. And I know it sounds a bit paradoxical, because we think, well, we're part of the all that is. We're part of everything. We're connected to everything. We shouldn't be creating boundaries and separation. However, the path from disempowerment to sovereignty, which, to be honest, we're all kind of on in our own way, shape, or form. My journey has been directly related to that. And I know that my mission is to assist people on that journey back to connecting with their sovereignty, to be able to radiate their truth, their light out to the world. But the path to sovereignty starts with understanding where you start and stop, in terms of, we are incarnated in a physical form. That is a boundary in itself in terms of our energetic field. So this is really just about initially getting a grip on our energetic field and creating a healthy boundary. Making sure that we are aware, consciously aware of what is coming into our field and what we are giving out. And so these are the key areas to start off with in reclaiming our truth. If we want to be able to create a vessel that is high resonating frequency, to embody our highest aspect of self, we really need to clear and cleanse this field. We really need to clear and cleanse our energetic bodies. So the first point is to create healthy boundaries. And we can do that through intent. We can do that through visualization. We can do that through the command that, only the highest and greatest good for all, with harm to none, passes through. Whatever, you can create a bubble or a field of some kind. One of the ways that I do is when I'm grounding, and then I'm drawing in that beautiful source light that is all around us all the time anyway. I actually just envisage it solidifying slightly around the edges, and that's my boundary. And only the highest and greatest good can pass through. But equally, only the highest and greatest good can pass through on the other side. So I'm not, I'm policing, if you like, the energy that I'm sending out into the world, because understanding we are human, and we're not perfect. We're going to have moments of anger, of frustration, and it's important that we take responsibility for that also. So the other aspect is the clearing of the field. And one of the ways that and I've done so much clearing work over the years, and you kind of end up going, really, I haven't cleared that yet. But one of the ways that I've realised that is if you're still really attached to something, if you're still triggered by something, if you can't let that story go, if that belief still keeps coming up for you, it's about watching for the patterns and watching for where you're really attached to. So I've had many, many, many situations in my life around abuse of power, around my abuse of my own power, allowing others to abuse my power, abuse me in various different forms. Now, there was a lot of time in my life where I was still holding on to that pain. I was still holding on to that story. I still was connected in some way to being a victim. And so that's a key pointer. If you're connected in any way to the stories of your life, then there's still work to be done in clearing. So whether it's clearing your thoughts, your beliefs around that. And one of the ways in which I've done that is when I've been triggered by something in the outer world, because understanding that, we are part of the all that is. Everything is a reflection of us. We create our reality because everything is part of us, whether it's the trees, the birds, the landscape, whether it's the people around us, whether it's the archangels or the angels or the unicorns that we're connecting with. They're all aspects of us, and that's us understanding our full multidimensionality. So if you're triggered by anything in the outer world, if you're triggered by anyone in your external reality, rather than just diving straight into that situation and getting really connected to the drama, it's about stepping back, finding that centered place, finding your 0 point within, so that you can look on situations with a loving neutrality, a loving non-attachment, and go, well, that's really interesting, because if I'm seeing it in my outer reality, then it's in my inner landscape too. And because the outer reality is merely a reflection to me, and therefore I know there's work to be done inside, but also I know what the work is around, and therefore you kind of get to play detective. And I don't know about you, but I love whodunits. So I love exploring and getting to the root of things. And that's probably the healer in me as well, because I always like getting to the root of the issue to clear and cleanse that for clients. But it's about looking at it from the point of view of a curious, magical child and exploring. It's exciting. If I've been triggered by something, I don't kind of go straight into the moment. I hold my hand up. There may be times when I do find myself diving deep into that moment, but awareness thankfully soon kicks in for me now, and then I step back and go, okay, that's interesting. But to me, that is a beautiful new way of perceiving situations, to say, well, that's interesting, and then exploring what it is. And I shall give an example, because it doesn't always look exactly the same. So you may get triggered by something in the external realities, a behaviour or something of an intimate other in your life, or somebody close to you, or even just somebody that you've met on the street, or seen something you've seen on the television, and it's triggered you. It's triggered a response in you. There are beliefs behind that triggering. And it's about identifying those beliefs and where they came from. Are they yours? Do you actually believe them? Are they your truth? And this is the beautiful thing. It's about questioning everything. you get to question everything. It's like a child. I used to have those books, Tell Me Why, and I was always asking why is it like that, why is it like that. So it is about getting into that kind of energy. So I used to be really triggered by my partner and his, because he didn't want to have conflict in his life, he would say little untruths because he didn't want to rock the boat. He didn't want to cause a scene. So he would just, tell little fibs, little untruths, hold information away from people, as it were. And that used to really trigger me. I mean, really trigger me. And I found that really interesting. And so I investigated, okay, so the core thing around this is untruth. So where am I not being truthful? And it doesn't have to look entirely the same way. It wasn't that I was lying to people or being dishonest in any way, because actually integrity and honesty have been two of my key important aspects in life. They're the standard bearers, if you like, for my life. But I realized, because I wasn't being completely honest at that point, I had not put myself out there into the world to say, I'm an intuitive energy healer. I'm a channel. I speak to highest aspects and unseen energies. I hadn't outed myself, as it were. That was where my dishonesty was, because I wasn't standing in my authenticity. I wasn't standing in my truth. And so I got to explore that through acknowledging what was triggering me in the outer world and investigating it a bit further inside myself. And that took me on a journey of clearing and cleansing, identifying lots and lots of different beliefs. And the key thing is understanding that we learn, since childhood, we have learned from each and every one of our significant people in our lives, the people in authority, most of what we believe in, and most of what our lives have been based upon. And that's why I'm saying question everything, unfold everything like a child at Christmas unwrapping a parcel. Tear it to pieces and really see, get down to the nitty gritty and really connect with what is the belief, the core belief behind, what's triggering you, what's upsetting you, what, is motivating you. Whose voice is that in? Can you identify the voice of the person whose belief that is? And if it isn't yours, then does it resonate? Does it feel good? When you say that belief, and I'll give you an example. My dad instilled in me a really strong belief around money and security, and also that, basically, you're here to endure life, not enjoy it. And it was all about, you have to save and hoard money just in case something happens. And, security was the be all and end all. You had to ensure that you were secure, even if you weren't happy. And so, when I got down to those core beliefs, I realised and recognised it was my dad's voice, but there was also my granddad's voice in there as well, because obviously, understanding that our parents have learnt from somewhere, they've learnt from their parents and theirs and so on and so forth. So there's no judgment in any of this, and that's the other aspect of this work, the clearing and cleansing work. We have to be centred. We have to be in our 0 point. We have to look at things with that loving neutrality, that loving non-attachment, because if we are attached to the frustration or the anger or whatever emotion it is connected with this belief, then we're in there. We're very much connected and identifying with it. So we have to kind of step back, and rather than see the world with our physical eyes, our physical senses, it's about looking through our third eye and connecting with that center point, that divine space within, that's neutral. Because our higher self is neutral. There is, the comparisons, the judgments, they're all very third dimension. They're all very egoic. So right, wrong, good, bad, have to, shoulds, and they're all judgment calls. And if you hear those voices going through your mind, it's your lowest aspect of self, it's your egoic aspect of self, and probably coming from beliefs that aren't yours and don't resonate with your truth, with your highest aspect, your inner wisdom and guidance. So this is about discernment. So tuning in, connecting, discerning your truth, and then making a choice. When you understand that actually this belief I've learned from this person, and actually it doesn't resonate with me anymore, then you get to make a choice, and it's no longer an unconscious habit. It's something that we are then aware of, and awareness is key. I really can't stress that enough. That's what came through for me so much. As soon as we're aware of something, we can do something about it. We're the creator beings. If we have awareness that we are putting something out into the field that is not in resonance with our truth, or that we're accepting something into our field that's not in resonance with our truth, we get to do something about it. We get to choose into that. And so there's this process of clearing, and the next thing is really to allow, to allow ourselves this non-judgment, looking back on our life without judgment, I did a lot of forgiveness work to understand that in each and every moment I made choices, and also from a soul level, everything that we've experienced in life has been perfect for our spiritual evolution and growth. Our soul intended everything. Our name, our date of birth, our time of birth, our place, the family we were born into, everything was laid out perfectly. But not only that, it was done in co-creation with other beautiful souls, other aspects of ourself that are part of our soul family, that came in and said, you know what, I'm going to help you with that. I'm going to help you experience this. You've got this soul intention for this incarnation. I'm going to come in and help. And understanding that those souls that love us the most, those souls that are dearest to us, are the ones that in life have been our most challenging counterparts in this dance of life, in this experience of life, really helped me when I was doing the forgiveness work and taking judgment out of my story, releasing my story, letting go, cutting those cords. And that is, there are various aspects to this clearing work. There is the energetic aspect where we can go in, we can cut the cords, we can clear and cleanse, we can go through the chakras, we can do all the energetic work. And whether you can do that yourself or you need support in that through an energy healer, it doesn't matter. Again, it's all perfect. And no judgment on how long it takes either. But there's also the more physical aspect of it, which is the forgiveness work, the going through the belief systems, allowing your emotions to be expressed. That's absolutely key. One of the biggest reasons that we hold so much density in our field is that we've actually used our energetic field as a container vessel for all of those things that through the beliefs that we've been taught, we've not allowed to express. If we've gone through life not expressing our authentic emotions, not expressing our authentic thoughts, all of that suppressed energy is held within our field. So that's why there are these varying aspects of clearing. There's the energetic work, but then there's also the work which we do with ourselves, the forgiveness work, the allowing the true expression of our emotions, allowing that energy to start flowing again, and understanding that energy flows, and it will at times come out unexpectedly, and it will change and transmute in form. So you may have buried or suppressed anger or grief, and it may come out in a physical symptom. It may come out in an emotional symptom or a mental symptom. And an example of that is when I've done a lot of clearing and releasing work, when I've actually fully surrendered to allowing this energy to flow. I've had physical symptoms, racing heart, palpitations, night sweats. I've had massive anxiety, the biggest panic attacks I've ever experienced in my life. But it's what it is this release of energy, that I'm finally letting this energy go. And so it is about sort of allowing and surrendering to this process. You know, we can do the mental aspects of the beliefs, working through the beliefs, the core beliefs, releasing those, choosing into which ones I'm agreeing with, I'm not agreeing with, and changing. And then we have to go through the kind of energetic, emotional kind of expression and release. And again, I've done various different forms of modalities of work to actually clear those, but ultimately it just comes down to fully surrendering into it. And shadow work is it's an interesting piece of work, but it's so valid, and really none of us can grow and travel through this soul evolution without facing our shadow, because we are feeding it, we're giving it the power over us. When we're stepping into sovereignty, it's about reclaiming all of our power. Now, in shamanic terms, we may do soul retrieval, power animal retrieval. And again, that's on a very energetic level, but there are times when we actually have to actually take action in the physical. You know, we exist in a physical world, and actually it's about embodying our truth and embodying our power and our sovereignty. And so that means we have to do the clearing of the beliefs, we have to face the shadows, we have to allow the energy, the emotions to be expressed fully, and we have to change our behavior in the physical world, in the outer world. If we want to make changes in our reality, as creative beings, we have to be that change. So we have to take action in alignment with our truth. So whether that's, you know, and I did this a lot when I was working through the way my family had and I had played out this power relationship and these power games, and I completely changed the way I responded. So I was responding from a conscious place rather than diving into the usual pattern of behavior. And in that, I took my power back. And there were various other forms of that I did through the years. But ultimately, the shadow work is so important, and it's something that we often avoid because we're scared of feeling. We're scared of the hidden aspect of self. We're scared of the shadow. And that fear feeds the shadow, it enables it to grow. So if you imagine when you're a child and you know you've got a bit of moonlight coming through your curtains and you look and there's this monstrous shadow on the wall and you're like, oh my goodness, and your imagination's running wild and you're thinking of all the things that it could be. When you actually turn the light on, you realize it's the most innocuous thing. It's an ornament, or it's your teddy, or it's a book just in a weird position. And that's really what the shadow work is, because shadow, fear, all of those dense, lower vibrational aspects, they cannot, they are dispelled with light. And so all of this work, whether it's the energetic aspect or whether it's us actually facing our fears, you know, doing something, or in the physical realm, or actually, you know, allowing the emotions to be fully expressed and experienced, or, you know, confronting these beliefs and having the courage to look on our life stories and disassociate from the energy of them that has us tangled up and caught up. All of that is doing the shadow work, and it's about shining the light of truth on everything. That's basically what shadow work is. You're shining the light of truth into your darkest areas, whether that be the cognitive aspects, whether that be the emotional, it doesn't matter. So that's a big part of it, and that's the kind of getting back to basics. But one of the biggest things for me was grounding. And I honestly thought I was a grounded person, but it wasn't until I listened to Steve Noble's stuff, work on the star seeds, and the realization that I have never felt safe on this planet. I have never wanted to fully ground and connect to the energy of this planet because it was so dense and it felt so alien to me. I honestly thought that my whole family, the whole world was full of aliens, and what on earth was I doing here? And it was so wonderful to have that realization that one, I wasn't alone, two, I wasn't mad, and three, that actually there was a reason why I didn't feel safe here, why I didn't feel like I belonged here, why I didn't want to ground to this energy. And merely through that, receiving that transmission, because that's what we do when we hear a podcast, when we read a certain book that our higher self has guided us to, when we hear a conversation or have a conversation with another and they say something that really resonates, we're receiving transmissions of energy that are like little key codes that are unlocking the truth within us. They're unlocking those barriers, those walls that we've built up around or have been built up around us, and reconnecting us with our own wisdom, reconnecting us with our truth. So, this work, it rarely is it done alone. I don't know of anybody on their own spiritual journey that has had no assistance of some kind, whether that be through the channeled guidance or wisdom that they've been getting, or books that they've read, or meeting up with some form of teacher or guide or mentor in some way. This is not a path that we have to walk alone, and that is something that certainly my guides have been saying a lot to me. One of the aspects of being in this human form and being in the third dimension is separation. And we're the ones that disconnected from our truth. We're the ones that disconnected from our multidimensional aspects. So as we do this clearing and we set the healthy boundaries and we allow ourselves to ground the energy into the physical form, it's about opening up again, opening our heart. That is one of the most important things. Opening our heart, our gateway to the all that is, and allowing that connection, that reconnection with our multi-dimensional aspects of self. Whether they turn up in the form of archangels, angels, animal guides, unicorns, fairies, it doesn't matter. The earth elementals, dragons. But allowing ourselves to be supported and understanding that separation is the illusion. We are not and never have been alone. We do not walk this journey alone. And there is so much support out there for us to traverse this path back to self-empowerment, back to sovereignty. So, opening your heart allows you to connect with your truth even more, allows you to connect with those higher aspects of self in whatever shape or form that they start to come, and also allows you to connect with your gifts, your clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance, that seeing, hearing, knowing, feeling the unseen energies that are around us, the magic that is around us all the time. And again, it's that shift in perspective that enables that heart opening to start taking place. But it's something that we have to be consciously aware of and to consciously practice. Because as we start to open, it's like, I think Ernesto talks about this as well, but this was a vision that I was getting. These little viscous bubbles coming up to pop open at the surface. And Ernesto, I think, said that, we've got like this metal drum of all of our suppressed emotions, all of the gunk, if you like. And it's been buried in the deepest depths of our energetic field. And as we start to allow the light to enter, as we start to reconnect with our truth, the drum starts to disintegrate. And this energy is released. These viscous bubbles raise to the surface. But they're raising to the surface because they're ready. They're ready to be released. We no longer have to hold on to these things that no longer serve us, that aren't our truths. And it is about going through that process of letting them go. But that process can feel quite challenging to the ego. I'm not going to lie to you. And there are times when you think, I can't do this. But and at that point, our automatic reaction is to close our heart down, to build those walls around our heart, because that's what we've learned how to survive this life. I never felt safe on this earth, and so I built layers and layers and layers of protection around my heart because I didn't want to be hurt. I didn't want to feel the pain that was around me. But it's about consciously letting those walls to disintegrate, consciously letting your heart to open, even when you're in the middle of being triggered. And that can feel like the most challenging thing. And I've gone through that journey. But when you allow your heart to remain open, and at times I just used to chant to myself, I'm going to keep my heart open. I'm going to keep my heart open. Even when I was really experiencing massive physical anxiety and fear, and I would just carry on and keep my heart open and keep my heart open. And then I would call in for assistance. I used to call in Archangel Michael quite a lot, bring me your shield, bring me your sword, protect me, keep me safe as I walk through this, basically walking through the valley of death, it felt like. But consciously keeping your heart open, because the more you do that, the more you practice that. That's why it's called spiritual practice. The more we practice it, clearing, releasing, raising our vibration, choosing into a different way of being, the more that becomes our norm. If you understand that everything that we've done before has been learned, we can unlearn it. We can reconnect with our truth and start taking action in alignment with our truth. And the more we take those little steps, the more that becomes our way of being. And then that becomes the automatic approach, as opposed to what we've learned up until this point. But understanding that, there will be times when we have awareness and we just don't feel that we can do it. We don't feel that we can take action in that moment. And understanding, our journey is perfect and in perfect timing. And at the point that is right for us, we will be able to take that next step. And so it's not judging yourself, not beating yourself with a big stick if, this time round I can't keep my heart open. Next time, I'll have my heart open a little bit more and a little bit more. So grounding is so important. And for me, understanding the starseed aspect was the key to enable me to ground, because I understood and realized that no, I'm not going to feel comfortable grounding to this third dimensional earth plane. Yet my understanding of the ascension process, my understanding that I'm a starseed, my understanding that the planet has different dimensions as well, that actually I can ground to a higher vibrational aspect of the earth, one that's most compatible with my own. And literally those were the words that I would use. I ground to the highest aspect of the earth plane, most compatible with my own energetic field. And then that was my shift. That enabled me to then embody more of my light. And the more light that I could embody, the easier the clearing work, things went even faster. So grounding is so important, but understanding that, things don't look the way that they did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. And understanding that things don't have to look a certain way. As you connect more with your truth, the trust aspect is trusting and knowing that your truth is valid. The other person's truth is valid for them, but your truth is valid for you. So regardless of who you're being taught what from, you take those bits that resonate with you. You act on those bits that resonate with you, and you lovingly discard the rest. If somebody is saying, grounding, cleansing, protection, or, if you don't like the word protection, boundaries, and that resonates, fabulous. But then connect with how that works for you. Don't just blindly take the the tools of another person. So as I'm working with clients, I really try and get them to connect with that. That is my key message to people. What feels right for you? You know, if we talk about cleansing, how does that look to you? You know, how does that feel to you? What feels right to you? What does your body want to do? Because that's really important. Discerning our truth, connecting with our truth, and then living our truth means living our truth, not living another person's truth, not living this energy healer's truth. That works for them, but what works for you? And so things like, you know, using crystals and things like that, you'll read on the internet, this crystal has this certain properties and you can use it in this certain way. That's great, and that might work for that person because that's the download that they received. However, when you tune in, say I want to tune into a crystal that's going to help me cleanse on a particular day, then I may get a crystal that, according to the internet or according to the books, would be a grounding crystal. It would be something completely different. Yet for me, that's the perfect thing for me. And also understanding that, you know, everything has its own energy resonance. And so, you know, a particular quartz crystal will be right for me, but another will have a different energy signature. But that's a story for another day. So those are the really important aspects. And then it comes down to this body is your temple. This physical part of our energetic field is vital to us being able to contain our light, to contain our highest aspect of self, for us to be able to really connect with and draw down and embody our I am presence, our monadic aspects of self, our true multidimensional, highest vibrational sense of being, essence of being. We have to raise the vibration of our physical form. Now, this is happening anyway. The ascension process is happening anyway. The earth is ascending, the vibration is raising. The energies that are coming to the planet now are so strong, so powerful. And, you know, this clearing process is happening. So even if you just sat there and did nothing, it would happen, but it would happen at a slower rate, and it might feel like a rate that isn't in resonance with your particular flow. So ultimately, it does come down to, you know, treating your body as a temple. And, you know, we'd kind of discussed this in the conversation with Kathy about, you know, integrating all aspects of the self. And that's not just the shadow and the light, that's the divine masculine, the divine feminine. It's your child, your mature adult, your critical parent. It's all of those aspects of yourself. And then your galactic aspect, your angelic aspect, your, you know, elemental aspect. It's all aspects of self. So integrating all aspects, that's what we're aiming for, to stand in our sovereignty, and then embodying that. But to be able to embody all of that beautiful high vibrational energy, our physical vessel needs the support to shift from the carbon to the crystalline structure. So in order to do that, for me, it was very much about detoxing. It was very much, you know, it started with the beliefs, the cleansing of my energetic field, the belief systems, detaching from the stories, allowing true expression of my emotions, which, you know, I am still doing. And then we moved on to kind of actually getting down to the nitty-gritty of this physical vessel, you know, my body being a temple. So then it was around, you know, what I was physically putting into my body. And at one point, I used to eat chicken and fish. And I'd made a chicken stir fry, and I literally had the fork up to my mouth. And my body said, I can't eat that. And that was it. I could not put it in my mouth. And so I had to go and make myself something different. And ever since then, I've returned to being vegetarian, because I was vegetarian in childhood. And now I'm vegan. But it's not to say that, you know, everybody's journey is going to be that. But what it is about tuning in and listening to your body. You know, actually asking your body, what do you need? How many of us actually spend the time to get to know ourselves? And this is really what this journey is, getting to know ourselves in all of our different ways. And part of that is, what does your body need? Now, your body may need meat, your body may desire chocolate, your body may desire these various things. But for me, it was cutting out wheat, it was cutting out dairy, it was cutting out meat and sugar. Those were the key things, and cleansing. So I had some parasites within my body, and on an energetic level as well as on a physical level. So again, it's not just the energy work, it's the physical work too. And so I went through this process of cleansing and detoxing, and again, that's going to look very different to everybody. So again, be guided by your body. How does your body want to detox? For some people, it will be the hard and fast, hardcore, boom, detox. But I was so sensitive to energy that I couldn't do it that way. So I had to do the slowly, catchy monkey, the really gentle process of detoxing, because I would have massive reactions and it would be too much for my ego to take. And I would then go, okay, so I'm going to feel into how we're going to do this together. Because this is what this journey is about. It's about bringing all aspects together so that you're in alignment with your divine purpose, your blueprint. And that means bringing your ego along as well. We're not killing the ego off. We're not going, well, I'm not listening to you anymore because, you're just hateful and bad. Because again, that's judgment. It's about bringing it in alignment with our highest aspect of self, bringing all aspects together and embodying that and moving forward from that place. So clearing, cleansing also includes the physical aspects of clearing and cleansing. For me, getting out into nature, playing my flute, bringing in that sound, using sound energy, colour, all sorts of different modalities to do this work. But ultimately feeling into what's right for you. What does your body want to do in this now moment? And having no judgment on it, but just allowing it, providing it. And the other key thing was being in flow. When we're against ourselves, we're fighting against ourselves. And to be honest, that's what I've done most of my life. I've denied my truth and I've fought against my natural resonance, my natural flow and frequency. All of society's rules and laws and conditioned beliefs are around doing, being productive, especially in Western society. And I can only speak to that because that's where I incarnated into. But, there are times when our energy just wants to be. There are times of rest. There are times where we want to be receptive. We want to receive that divine feminine energy, where we have no motivation. We have no energy to do anything. All I want to do sometimes is just sit in a field and be. Maybe play my flute or sleep. And we judge so much when it doesn't align with what we've been taught to be right. And so this really is about ripping up the rule books. It's about just tearing everything up and tuning into what you need in each now moment. And I know that is going to be very difficult for some people who have jobs, who need to put food on the table. But it's working in alignment with your energy field as much as you can. So, it may not be possible if you have to work a 9-to-5 job to have a rest, have a sleep at 2:00 in the afternoon. But understanding your flow and allowing yourself to be as much in your flow as you can be will enable you to journey along this path in a much easier way. But understanding that everything is perfect and in perfect timing, so not judging if that's not where you're at in this now moment. But allowing when you're guided and if that guidance is really strong, to take those leaps of faith. But again, some of those leaps of faith can be tiny, tiny footsteps. It doesn't have to be jumping off a cliff and giving up everything in your world that's been your identity up until that point. Your higher self is always working in your greatest and highest good with harm to none. So the guidance that you're being drawn to, it may seem challenging at times to your egoic aspect of self. It may seem challenging to everything that you've known up until that point. But even if it's bringing you into a situation that you think, how on earth is that in my highest and greatest good? Ultimately, when you get further down the line, you will be able to look back and see that it was. And I'll give an example of that. When I was paralyzed, I was literally in a situation where I got myself to the point of denying my truth so much that I was severely depressed. There was no point to me living. I wasn't living, I was just existing. I was allowing myself to be abused in so many different ways. I really was at the rock bottom. And many times I would have easily have just ended my life, because actually the belief that the world would be a better place without me in it was prevalent in my everyday thoughts. I was in a living hell as far as my perception of my world was concerned. And I was on my way to work and I was walking down the stairs. I was at the top of the stairs and my foot slipped on the carpet. And I remember, I don't remember falling all the way down the stairs, but I remember my neck going back and thinking that went back too far. Then I blacked out, and then everything was in slow motion and I couldn't stop myself from falling down the stairs. And I found myself at the bottom of the stairs. I really can't remember much about what happened, but I know that I stayed in the same seated position. I got myself to the settee and I stayed there all day. I don't know where my child was. I don't know where my husband was. I honestly can't remember. But when they came back at the end of the day, I knew that something was terribly wrong. And I told my partner, and I told him what happened, and he took me to the hospital. But me moving from my seated position slipped a disc in my neck, and from that point on I was tetraplegic. So by the time I got to the hospital, I couldn't move, I couldn't feel anything, and I was like that for a week. Now, for somebody who didn't trust the universe, because I came in knowing who I was, and I kind of had to experience, well, my journey was to experience disempowering myself, denying my truth. I didn't trust the universe. And then I was basically pushed down the stairs by the universe. And again, it was like, you would not look on that as if that was a perfect experience and as if that was in my highest and greatest good. However, having done the work on releasing and detaching from the story, I now look on that as the best day of my life. It restarted my life because it gave me the space, quite literally, and the time. I had a year because even after when I got my feeling back, I was in an emergency collar. My mobility was massively restricted. And then I was in a soft collar for another 6 months. It really gave me the space and the time to reflect on everything. And I really did. I went into each and every relationship, each and every conversation that I'd had, each and every situation, all of the choices that I'd made. And it was at that point that I made some massive changes in my life. I didn't come out of my abusive relationship. That took a bit longer, but I made so many different changes in my life. I gave up the job that I hated. I made massive changes to a relationship with my parents. I started to stand in my power and I started to take those steps. And it took a bit longer for me to pluck up the courage to take the steps to come out of the abusive relationship and really start moving into my sovereignty. But it was a perfect moment in my journey and I wouldn't change a thing. And that's really where, it's about understanding that everything really is perfect and in perfect timing, even when in that moment it really doesn't feel like it. When you're able to kind of go within, do the work within, because that's really what this is all about. It's not about doing the work. Yes, we're here to serve others, but do you know what? We're here to serve others by radiating our truth and our light in the world. and being that role model, being that key code, that walking key code that unlocks the truth in everybody else. But the work is us. We are the work. And it's really about our experience of this life, our experience of this reality. Living our soul-fueled, magical lives means shifting all of this density, all of this illusion that we've had, shifting into the true and living embodiment of our truth, however that gets to look for you, and having absolutely no judgment on that, knowing that it's perfect. So whether that means that you still remain in a job, but your perception of that job is completely changed because you're completely living your truth in each moment of it, or whether you shift jobs and you do something completely different. But in every relationship, in every situation, in every moment, in each and every now moment, living your divine, resonant truth, hearing your guidance and taking those action steps lovingly, trustingly, openly to all the possibilities and opportunities, and understanding that each and every opportunity and possibility is beautiful and perfect. That's how we live our soul-fueled magical lives. I'm still on my journey. There are still aspects that come up for me to clear. But now I don't look at them with fear or trepidation or frustration or anger. I look at them with a smile on my face and look forward to the upgrade that I'm getting. Because each time I get triggered, I know that I'm releasing some density, and I know that I'm able to contain more light. Each time now I get an inspiration that would have previously triggered my ego, I smile. There's sometimes I used to say I had an ostrich tendency, because I would stick my head in the sand every now and again, and then I would kind of go, okay, time to get your big girl pants on and do the work. But it's like now that ostrich aspect is very, very few and far between, if at all existent. And I trust. I have so much trust now that I am held not just by the universe, because that's externalizing it, but I'm held by myself. I'm held by all aspects of myself, understanding that when I'm channeling, and my experience of channeling has completely changed, that I'm no longer having a conversation with something that's outside of me. I'm conversing, I'm channeling an aspect, higher vibrational aspect of myself. So the experience is completely different when I'm doing healing work, whereas before I would have doubted, I would have questioned, I would have been a bit fearful of allowing certain high frequencies to come through. Now I just open. I just allow myself to be open, and whatever comes through, comes through. Like the conversation that I've just had today, I didn't know where this was going. This was completely unplanned and unprepared. Just allowing it to flow in its perfect, natural, beautiful, beautiful direction. And that's really, to me, what living a soul-fueled magical life is. Not having any controls, not having any expectations, not making any assumptions, and just being in that energy of that beautiful magical child where everything is beautiful, everything is a wonder, everything's new. And knowing that, I can be one thing in one moment, and I can be another thing in the next, and that there is limitless potential. There are no limits. When we put assumptions and expectations on things, we're limiting them, because our ego only has a limited understanding of what's possible. It's only when we're fully in our highest aspect of self, where we're allowing that flow of inspiration to come through, we're completely open. And that's the thing about the boundaries. We initially have to have boundaries to enable ourselves to do the work, to clear the density, to fully connect with Divine FM. But the more you start connecting with that, the more you start embodying your light, those boundaries dissipate. Those boundaries are no longer necessary to be so severe and strict, because we are radiating more of our light. And our light is our highest defense, if you want to put it in those terms. Light dispels darkness. So the more you radiate, the more open you are, the more you radiate your light into the world, the more you radiate your truth in the world, the more you embody and live your divine aspect, then you don't need the boundaries to be there, because your light is your shield. Your light is transmuting whatever is coming into contact with your shield. It's affecting everything that's coming into contact with your shield, and in that way, through you allowing the embodiment of your truth, your sovereignty, you are enabling Gaia, everything around you, to connect with their sovereignty, and then it's up to them. Then you let it go. It's like when we put intentions out into the field. I mean, the way I put intentions out now is it's what I want to experience. So I want to experience freedom and joy. So if the opportunities that come to me offer me freedom and joy in that moment, great, I'll go with it. If it doesn't, if it feels limiting, if it doesn't feel in resonance, then it's a no. And I just send that out, I want to experience freedom and joy, or I want to experience love, or I want to experience beauty. And then I let it go. I don't put any details on there. I don't attach any parameters to it, because that's your ego, that's the control, that's the human self. And in that way, you're going to limit what you get back, the reality that you create. If I have set parameters based on my lower aspect of self, my ego, and I say, okay, I want this, but I want it to look a certain way, it has to look like this, then I'm going to miss all those doors of opportunity that are around me, because it doesn't look exactly right. So sending it out into the field and trusting. Oh, that's somebody at the door. Sorry, I just had a parcel delivered. So sending it out into the field and not having any expectations or assumptions on what it's going to look like when it comes back means that you are open, fully open to receive. Regardless, it doesn't matter in what way, shape or form it comes to you, because you're going to tune in with your heart center. You're going to feel into, how does it feel? Does it feel exciting? Does it feel light? Does it feel right? Or does it feel heavy? Does it feel funky and not in a good way? And that's basically how I go through life now, and that's what I take action on. And also the important thing that is coming through is understanding and acknowledging that each now moment is a different now moment, and it's the only moment that exists. And so it doesn't matter what went on 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, 5 years ago. That's the past, it's gone. And the future hasn't happened yet. So this now moment is the only one that exists. I'm also getting now that time isn't linear, and it's spiral and fractal. But I haven't got time to go into that. But so this now moment is the only one that exists. So it doesn't matter if I agreed to do something 5 months ago. If now, in this now moment, something now resonates for me where I am now, I can change my mind. I can make a different decision. I can take action that's in alignment with my truth now, not with, maintaining my commitment to the truth that was 5 months ago. And that is such an important thing that is coming through so big. Okay, that is a really important aspect that wants to be made clear. Our commitments, our vows that we have made through past lives, through this life, some of them no longer resonate. And so it is, the most important thing is about tuning in to what resonates with you now, in this now moment. What is your truth now, today? And if it's no longer in alignment, let it go. Just like we've let go of all of the density and all of the suppressed emotions and all of the other stuff that we let go of on our journey, it is equally as important to maintain that, to stay in resonance with your truth, to embody your truth, your authenticity in each moment, and be your true reflection of self. Not holding on to something that you agreed to. If it's no longer in resonance, it's no longer in resonance. If it doesn't feel right in this now moment, it's not right in this now moment. It doesn't mean to say that it's not going to be right at a different time. I fell foul of this, and I'll give you an example of this for me. Commitment, it was a massive thing for me. Loyalty, commitment, two massive things that I'd learned through my ancestral line. And they have their place, because commitment to yourself, commitment to your truth is basically what it's all about. But it got, that expression of commitment was so distorted that it was commitment to what I've said I'd do, even if it went against everything that I was feeling in this moment. So even in this now moment, it felt like the last thing in the world I wanted to be doing, I would stick to that commitment. I had a client session and I was not feeling very well at all. I wasn't feeling the connection at all. And yet I had this commitment to this client session. And I hold my hand up and say, I put my commitment to the client session above what I knew to be my truth. I knew I wasn't connected. I knew I wasn't feeling it. I did the client session. It was the worst session I've had in my life. I really struggled. I couldn't connect. The only message that was coming through was, I can't help you. And it was horrible. It was a horrible experience. And I know that's judgmental, but that's how it felt at the time. Now, I wasn't able to serve that client in that moment. And so I didn't feel like I could charge them anything. It was an hour of my life. And, what I should have done before was say, I'm not feeling this. I'm really sorry, but can we reschedule? Because I can't serve you in the energetic space that I'm in. But I chose not to. I chose to work in alignment with the story, with the belief system of my past, of my parents, of my ancestors. Now I don't do that. Now, if I'm not feeling something, I will let the client know. What I've asked my aspect of self to do is give me enough notice that is reasonable for my clients, but I will change my mind in an instant, in a moment, if it no longer feels in resonance, if it no longer feels in alignment. Because I know that when I'm working in alignment with my highest and greatest good, with harm to none, that's exactly what's going to take place. And not only is it perfect for me, but ultimately it's also perfect for the other person. But understanding that it may not feel like it in that moment to them. But I have no connection to that. I have no judgment of that. All I have is that knowing of working in alignment with my truth. So that is where it feels good to leave this conversation with. I really do hope that you have thoroughly enjoyed this summit as much as I have. And that you have gained something, some nuggets, some key codes have landed within your field and started to unlock your own divine wisdom. Remember, the truth is within you. There is nothing outside of yourself to search for. Your higher self will bring you the perfect message, the perfect guidance, the signs, the symbols in perfect timing. All we have to do is be open to receive them. And then interpret them in alignment with our truth. Because that's another thing, we often ask people, what do you think about this? I had this dream, what do you think about that? I've seen this sign, what do you think it means? Rather than asking, ask the question, absolutely, be that lovely, magical child divine detective. But rather than asking it of another, i.e. giving your power away, go within and ask yourself, what does that mean to me? Sit with it for a bit. Sit in silence. Tune in. And if you need to, just start writing, or just allow the pictures, the voices, the knowing to unfold in front of you. That's the journey, connecting with ourselves, reclaiming our own truth, and living our magical soul-fueled lives. So much love to you all. Have a fantastic rest of your day. There will be a replay period for any interviews, videos that may have landed in your spam box and you missed, or you signed up to the summit and realised that you hadn't received an interview because you signed up on a day that was too late or whatever. However it transpired beautifully for you. There is a replay period of 4 days starting on Thursday the 21st, lasting until 12 o'clock midday UK time on Monday the 25th. At that point, all of the interviews will be unavailable. But if you do feel drawn to, and I'm not pushing it, I'm not comfortable with salesy stuff, but if you do feel drawn to revisiting, being able to download these interviews for, future tapping into the wisdom, then feel free to purchase the summit for the discounted price, and that discounted price will last until the end of the replay period. It has been my absolute honour, my complete and utter pleasure to serve you in this way, to explore this new avenue of service for me. It has enabled me to grow exponentially. I have gained and learned so much and have connected with some beautiful souls along this journey through the speakers and through the people who have reached out and connected with me directly. You've all been part of my journey of soul progression, expansion and sovereignty, as I hope I have been a small part of yours. So much love to you all, and until the next time, namaste. Take care. Bye.